This is Next Radio.
With Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.
Good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Ruffle. I'm a freelance television, radio and film producer. As you can see, I'm now a Twitter film producer. And I just wanted to talk very briefly about having big ideas. Now, you're all radio professionals. You all know how to have them. So I'm not going to tell you that. But I'm going to suggest that big ideas come with big disadvantages as well as big advantages. And to keep that simple, I'm going to call them the two worth it's. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tommies because that informs this whole idea. Radio drama in the UK, there's at least 60 minutes. If you don't come from this country, there are at least 60 minutes a day, often a lot more, of radio drama. Attracts very high-end names, particularly from the stage, but also from TV and films. Tommies, it's the story of a group of signallers and their families, told in real time on centenary dates of the First World War. Now, the real-time element is the first thing I want to just focus on because we're talking here about programs that are broadcast, say this is the first one, broadcast on the 7th of October 2014. It is the events of the 7th of October 1914, and that runs all the way through. Currently we have 33 scheduled dramas running through the whole period through the 11th of November 2018, which would be, of course, 11th November 1918. Now, the key to this real-time idea is this. The characters, pretty obviously, are going to go through a massive arc from the beginning to the end of a war. That much is obvious. But the audience is going to track the whole thing with them. Okay? They are going to have they're going to have births, marriages, and deaths occurring in that same period as, unfortunately for this group, largely deaths. And this should create, in the minds of our audience, I deeply hope this happens, they find that we put time back into war and therefore get a whole new understanding of what the First World War is about. Second element I want to draw to your attention about, Tom, is it's a war procedural. Now, we all know what a police procedural is. You're kind of fighting budgets, your own management, the useless kit you're being given. That's a soldier's daily experience of life, and that's a soldier's daily experience of life in the First World War. So this is a war procedural. In fact, think like The Wire, okay? Oh, that's a police procedural. In fact, this leads up to a small joke, which is Tommies is not The Wire, it's the barbed wire. Pause for laughter. This is also what I call drill down history. This is the third thing. We've gone right into the historical record. This is the war diaries. If you go down into those, you will find the events we're saying on that day happening in that place to those people. Okay, so it's bang on historically accurate. The sounds, well, as you've seen here, I've recorded the explosions from the First World War. It's the first time anyone's going to hear the First World War, okay, for 100 years. I've also recorded machine guns and various other items. And Tony Chirnside, his boys are going to be turning some of these episodes into 3D. And also the theme of the show is not war is hell, because I think intelligent people, especially Radio 4 listeners, they know war is hell. We're actually pursuing a much more difficult theme, and I'm going to come to that in just a minute. So that is a big idea, and I'd like to look at it in two ways, the two worth it's, okay? Right, most important thing is I approached the BBC in 2009 with this project, okay? And it'll theoretically come out in 2018. That's 9 years. 9 years of a working life is a sixth of your working life. Okay, so this is a big, big project, and therefore I think you need a very different approach. Now, one thing we all know is it's certainly not going to be worth it for the income. BBC radio drama, they're skint, they're laying people off, and as we all know, the BBC's motto is a fair day's pay for a fair week's work. So I'm not retiring to the south of France on this one, okay? So what do? Well, I own the format rights to this. I've written several of the plays myself. I've recorded those effects on my own time and money. I'm leasing to the BBC for this project, and if you want to buy them for your project, you can buy them off me. So those are the practical income streams of the worth it, the financial worth it. The holistic income streams, so this is different. This is much more difficult. I made myself a go-to guy on World War I. And this meant for the first 2 years while I was writing for the BBC just a treatment, I was actually also making myself someone who knew the social, political and military history of World War I. You can ask me what you like about the First World War, okay? Because I put 2 years, rather like a university course, into actually finding out everything I could about it, with two very important considerations. One, I was reading about it the way a writer thinks about it. And I was also thinking about it the way a producer thinks about it. So you come to me from either of those two places, you're going to get an answer informed by my previous knowledge. Now, there are two difficulties that have come from this. Getting people to realize that I'm available in downtime during this project to do that function for them. Haven't found a way around that yet. And also persuading people that I'm a big ideas man, not just a World War I big ideas man. And that is also something I'm finding rather limiting at the moment. In bits of downtime I've done on this, of course, I've also created ideas which have got to be ready to go because I'm really busy on this. Shorts, TVs, both low and high budget, feature film ideas, all ready to go if somebody approaches me to ask me, what's my thing and where do I want to go next with this. So one thing for certain is the main employer, as it were, the BBC, they're never going to make it worth it financially, but I can try to. So we now get on to something a little bit broader, and this, I think, is the most important thing I'm going to talk about. This is the other worth it. Now, I said before, 9 years of my professional working life. That's a sixth of a person's working life. That's me that's doing that. The person who's waking up in the middle of the night worrying about this, who's that? That's me. Okay? Nobody else. That's me. So it does boil down to one sentence, this project. It's a real-time soldiers and their families through the course of World War I. But that isn't the big idea. I didn't have the big idea when I'd had that, okay? To test the depth of your big idea, and I think this applies to if you've got a marketing strategy to try and do something with the radio station, or there's an anniversary coming up or something, look at the idea and see if it would work and be great radio, even if it was there was no anniversary or there was no project. Okay, it's got to be good anyway. And with all due respect, some of my television colleagues in this country, if you look at some of the television shows that have been going out, you can quite clearly see the commissioning editor saying to somebody, "Hey, we've got to have a TV show about this. You, with that face we know, go and make that." And that is not my idea of a big idea. It's got to come from somewhere else. So this is what it's all about for me, coming from the core, okay? What it actually means to me. Remember, I'm the guy lying awake at night worrying about this, okay? So it's got to mean something to me. And what this show is actually about, what this 4.5 years of programming is actually about, is something I deeply, deeply care about. I'm a liberal, anti-war pacifist, okay? And the theme that Tommies tackles is one I have struggled with all my life. And it's a paradox. And a paradox is an amazingly strong theme for a drama because you haven't got the answer. You're going to explore that answer. And the paradox is this: man is a moth to the flame of war. Okay? And it sounds simple. It took 6 months of writing and drilling down to get to that. Mankind is a moth to the flame of war. Because along with the chaos and the destruction of war, it gives our lives shape, purpose, and meaning. And that applies to men and women. So mankind is a moth to the flame of war. So, a big idea. If it's heartfelt, you're happy to spend the time sorting it out, and you have a plan in place for this big chunk of your life that it's going to take up, then perhaps you actually do have a big idea. Thanks very much.
This is Next Radio.
With Broadcast Bionics, innovative solutions for creative people.